What's up, gamers? Welcome back to these 10 things where we dive deep into the gaming world, past and present. Today we're taking a trip down memory lane to the days of the original PlayStation 1, but we're not just talking about the games, we're talking about the strangest accessories and peripherals Sony released for their iconic console. Now before we start, let's be clear, no Game Shark here, because it wasn't an official Sony product. Instead, we're looking at the quirky, the cool, and the completely bizarre official accessories. Let's get into it. Kicking things off, we've got the Pocket Station, released in 1999. This little device never made it to the West, so if you haven't heard of it, don't worry, you're not alone. Released in Japan in 1999, the Pocket Station was essentially a memory card with a small LCD screen, allowing you to play mini-games that could enhance your main PlayStation games. It worked with titles such as Final Fantasy VIII and Crash Bandicoot. It was like having a mini console in your pocket, but unfortunately it never got an international release. Talk about a missed opportunity. Imagine if this came out worldwide. Maybe it would have been Sony's answer to the Tamagotchi craze. Next up, we have the PlayStation Mouse and Keyboard. Introduced in 1995, this was a mouse and keyboard for the PS1. While it might sound odd for a console, these peripherals were primarily for point-and-click games like Myst and strategy titles like Command and Conquer. But let's be honest, it was nowhere near as common as the standard controller, and it looked like something straight out of a computer lab in the 90s. While it never really caught on with the wider gaming community, it's a fun piece of history for those who wanted to blur the line between PC and console gaming. At number 3, we have the ASCII one-handed grips. Released in 1997, this bizarre-looking controller was specifically designed for people who wanted to play one-handed. Think RPGs like Final Fantasy VII or turn-based games where you didn't need both hands on the controller at all times. It was marketed for disabled gamers, and is still one of the most unusual controllers ever designed. It has a joystick and button layout on one side, and people who were really dedicated to this could even switch it between hands. Definitely one of the rarest PlayStation accessories. Now for all the fighting game fans out there, we've got the Fight Stick, 1996. If you were serious about Tekken, Street Fighter, or Mortal Kombat, this peripheral was a dream come true. Modeled after arcade cabinets, the Fight Stick gave you that authentic arcade feel right in your living room, despite its big, bulky size. It made you feel like you were back in the arcade, pounding away at those buttons. It might not have been the strangest accessory, but it's definitely one of the coolest if you were an arcade fan. Speaking of big and bulky, let's talk about the PlayStation Analog Joystick, released in 1996. This beast of a peripheral was Sony's first attempt at analog control before the DualShock we all know and love. It was designed with flight simulators in mind, featuring two massive joysticks with buttons on top. It was a design that looked like it was meant for a fighter jet rather than a PlayStation. It may not have caught on with everyone, but if you wanted precise control over your flight games, this thing was the holy grail. Too bad it was just a bit too ahead of its time. Next on our list is the PlayStation LCD screen. Released in 2001, this portable screen attached to the console itself, turning your PlayStation into a portable gaming station. Well, sort of. You'd still need to plug it in, but the idea of playing your PlayStation on the go was pretty wild at the time. It was perfect for long trips or when the TV was taken, but honestly it looked pretty strange having a mini TV attached directly to your PlayStation. And who could forget the Dance Pad? Released in 1999, a time before Dance Dance Revolution took over arcades, you could get a dance mat for your PlayStation at home. It was compatible with a handful of games, and while the quality of these mats varied, it was a fun way to get your groove on. Sure, it wasn't the most accurate thing in the world, but if you wanted to bust a move, this was your go-to accessory. At number 8, we've got the Logitech Driving Force GT, released in 1998. It was the ultimate steering wheel for racing fans. If you were into games like Gran Turismo, this wheel gave you a whole new level of immersion, complete with force feedback so you could feel every turn and bump on the road. It was perfect for those who took their racing games seriously, and it was probably the closest you could get to being behind the wheel of a real car, at least in the late 90s. At number 9, we have the Reality Glove Controller. Released in 1995, it was PlayStation's attempt to copy from Nintendo's Power Glove, bringing the PlayStation into some truly strange territory. It was supposed to bring virtual reality to your PlayStation by letting you control the action with your hand movements. Sounds futuristic, right? Well, it didn't quite live up to the hype. The glove was awkward to use and very few games supported it, but still, it was a bold experiment. Last but not least, we've got the Super GB Booster, released in 2000. This peripheral lets you play your Game Boy games on the PlayStation. Yep, you heard that right, Nintendo and Sony together in one place. You could plug in your Game Boy cartridges and play them through your PlayStation. Talk about a crossover. It was a strange concept, but for those who loved their handheld games, this was a dream come true. And there you have it, some of the strangest and most unique PlayStation 1 accessories and peripherals. Whether they were ahead of their time, completely bizarre, or just plain cool, these devices showed that Sony was never afraid to get a little weird with their innovations. Did we miss any of your favorites? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more retro gaming content. Until next time, happy gaming.